got a spicy one for you today, guys. So I'm going to share with you how you can change Elementor's default dot pagination that you can see here at the bottom of the page. So this is for the slides widget. How you can change that into this. So this now contains the title of each slide coupled with a progress bar here that when it fully loads, it moves automatically onto the next slide. And this is all timed correctly, so your slides will change at the same speed of this progress bar loading. So you can also manually change them and it'll start the progress bar correctly and just flick between them. And on top of that, I've got it all working responsively within the box width container dimensions that you set on your website. So if I inspect this and move it down in size, so you'll see as we get to a small laptop, tablet, no matter what the size, the pagination shrinks and still works correctly until we get to mobile, where it just defaults back to the dots. So I'll share with you how I've created that today using 99% CSS with just a sprinkle of JavaScript, and you'll see how easy it is. So let's get into it. First things first, I'll show you my slides setup in Elementor. So this is the slides widget, and I've just added 4 slides as you would normally. I've set the height to 100 so it fills the viewport, and then within options, we need to set dots. You can choose arrows and dots, but definitely one of these with dots. I've just chosen dots because I don't think I need the arrows. The autoplay I've set to yes. Pause on hover and interaction you need to set to no, otherwise it'll knock out the progress bar where within the slide pagination. It'll knock that out of sync with the slides. So set these as no. Playback speed and transition speed and infinite loop and fit. All these 4 a personal preference, so you set these up how you want. We'll come back to this autoplay speed and transition speed because we use these in the code, but all of these are just personal preference, as is content animation. So then within style, content width, that's just the width of this middle part here. I've just set that to pencil and I've put my actual content width of my website in there, so variable content width. The only thing I've changed within here is the description. I've set a defined width and the button. So I've done that in my customize here. So the description set to 715, and then these 3 parts here are to do with the button skewing. But again, this is just optional. You don't need to do this, and it's not to do with this tutorial, which is why I've put them out of the way. So then next, I've just set padding to 0. I've set everything to align vertically. And then if we go down to navigation here, we've got pagination. I've set to inside, space between dots. This is actually going to become the space between your titles and your progress bars. And if you put 8, it'll double it to 16. So anything you put in here, it'll use as margin either side. So you'll have 8 either side. So you'll have a 16 total between them. So this one, like I say, is now the distance between your titles and your your loading bar. The only change I've made to this is on mobile, I've set it to 6, so I've decreased it slightly, and I've increased the size to 8 because I think slightly bigger dots look better. So these are actually the only dots you'll see. So just set these ones up in mobile, and then we can move on. So the next tab, advanced, the only thing you need to do in here for now is set an ID. So this will be so we can target the hero slider, the navigation, sorry, pagination with CSS. So CSS ID I've set as hero slider. So that's everything I've set in the default slides widget. So now what we can do is copy our code in from the code pen. So I'm going to include this in the video description. So this is the custom CSS that we're going to need in the slides widget. So I'll copy that. It's in slides, and it's in the custom CSS box, and I'll paste it in here. I'll just stretch this open so we can see better what's going on. And it immediately works because as you can see here, I'm targeting the hero slider ID for all this custom CSS, which is the ID that we've set here in layout. So now I'm going to add the JavaScript. So I'm just going to add a HTML widget, and I'm going to add a script tag. And I'm just going to paste in from the code pen this JavaScript and paste it in here. And for now, what I'll do is I'll just position this absolute and hide it from the layout, just so it doesn't interfere with any layout. And now we've got this. What I'll do is I'll talk you through what's going on in the code so you can amend it to fit your design basically. So if we go into slides, go into advanced, and now look at custom CSS, we can go through this together. So to make editing this a little bit easier, I've set the code up using variables. So these are the variables here. So it's these two blocks. And what this means is this is all you need to edit to get it working with your design, because I've set these variables up, I've plugged them into the code below. You can see them all down here. And they've been plugged into the correct place. So everything will update to what you want it to if you just set your values within this code here at the top. So the first set of code, the first set of values are the titles of the slides. So you just need to copy what you've put in your content here, your titles. You just need to copy that into here to match. If you're wondering what the \A is, that basically lets you manually set where the line break occurs. Now, you don't necessarily need this because, for example, National Laser Cleaning Services, that'll line break at the correct place. But for something like this, speed up your shutdown, if I didn't include the \A, the word your would fall on the line above, but I want it to be falling below, so I've manually done that by putting \A. So that's just something to bear in mind if you're wondering what that's there for. So the next set of variables, so we've got our font settings here. So you can just set your website font up here to match whatever yours is in your global settings. And then I've set a font weight of bold. The font size, I've set this up as a clamp formula to make it fluid. And because this is a clamp formula, it means that when I resize a page, the font scales down fluidly. So you can see that scaling down, which means the pagination text, the titles, will always stay on 2 lines until we get to mobile, obviously, where it goes to dots again. But to do a fluid font clamp calculation like that, I'll include this website in the description. So for me, my minimum viewport width is just before the start of mobile, and my maximum I've set as 1367. And at the 768 pixel width, I want my font size to be 16. And at the maximum width, I want my font size to be 28, and everything in between will fluidly scale between these values. And what it does is it gives you a clamp calculation here that you just need to copy and paste in here. So have a play around with that, and hopefully you'll find a clamp value that'll mean your titles will all remain on the same amount of lines as each other. If not, and you can't quite find a clamp, I will show you later on in the video how you can set up individual font sizes for different screen sizes. So that's font. Line height I've just set as 155. I've experimented what works on each screen size, and this sort of averaged out as 155%. Your text color is obviously the color of your titles, but it's also the color of your lines when they're not filled. The bottom space of 8% is that's the space underneath here. So for example, if I set this to 18, it'll go quite high. If I set it to 1, it'll stick to the bottom almost. I found 8 works quite well. But again, if you need to set this individually for each screen size, I'll show you how you can achieve that. Pagination bottom padding, that's the space between the title and the loading bar. So if I just set this as 0, you can see it's right next to the bar now. Whereas if I set it as 8, there's a huge gap. So for me, 0.6 works well. Loading thickness, 3 pixel. If you want to up this, massive line here, massive thickness, looks a bit silly, but just to demonstrate how it works, that's 13 pixel. I'll stick with 3. Active color, that's just my red color that I've used everywhere else, my accent color. Pagination fade up duration. So this one, when we refresh the page, that's how long it takes for this to fade in upwards. So I've just got it set to 1 second or 1000 milliseconds. And I've done that by creating a animation down here for fading up page, because this isn't something Elementor include, but I just thought it'd look quite nice because there's quite a lot of text for it to fading up. So you can change the duration here. And the last one to change is the pagination loading duration. So this is 8000 milliseconds I've got set at the minute. And this is very important because you need it to match within your content of your slides. in your slider options, you need it to match this autoplay speed. So that is everything set in the CSS that you can change. So now we've finished with the CSS, I'll explain what the JavaScript is doing and why we need it. I have updated the JavaScript slightly to make it more robust, and I have updated this in the code pen, but this does look slightly different to what we saw earlier on in the video. But basically, what I was noticing with my slides is on page load, this bar wasn't filling up completely. And that's because this slide is only on the page for 8 seconds because there's no fading animation like there is on the rest of the slides. And the fading animation takes 0.8 seconds. So all the other slides are on the page for 8.8 seconds. And so is the first one if it's not on initial load, because when you loop back to it, it does fade in. It's only on initial load. It's on the page for 8 seconds. But what this means is we need the duration of this loader to be slightly dynamic just to address that initial lack of fading animation on the first slide. So to do that, we need a bit of JavaScript. So if I go back now into the JavaScript, all you'll need to do is put your ID or class of your slider here. So mine's called Hero Slider, and then simply put in your autoplay speed and your transition speed here, which you can find back in slides, content, slider options. So it's 8,000 for me and 800 milliseconds here. And this code, what it does is it's detecting when the slide changes from the first slide, it changes the value from 8,000, which we set in the CSS here. We set 8,000 here, 8,000 milliseconds. So it's detecting when the slide changes, and then it's increasing the duration of the loader to include the duration of the transition speed. So that's all it's doing. It's just increasing it slightly. So for me, it would be 8.8 seconds. I noticed if you minus 100, it does perform a bit smoother, but it's essentially including the transition speed when it notices a change from the initial slide. And then once this is complete, it stops monitoring. It stops monitoring for changes. So that's why we need the JavaScript, and that's how it's working. So to finish off, guys, what I'll do is I'll just show you how you can manually set values for things such as font size and stuff if clamp size isn't quite working for you. So if you want to manually set the values per breakpoint. So to do that, what I've got is I've got a code snippet here, and this is just our CSS that we've been working with today. So it's exactly the same, but what I've done is I've removed font size, line height, and bottom space from our base variables. And what I've done is I've set them up here to relate to each screen size. So this is mobile, landscape, and tablet portrait, tablet landscape, and so on. And what you'd want to do is individually set values in each of these. And once you've done that, your first ones here for your mobile landscape, you can plug them in to here. So this is your first Hero Slider swiper pagination, your first big bulk of CSS. You can see here, I've changed it to pagination font size 768 rather than it was just pagination font size. I've now added these values in here, and then the rest of the values, add a media query towards the bottom of your code, responsive breakpoints, and you can just copy them in to media queries like this. So media min width 881 pixel, and we'll manually put in the values we've set up here in our breakpoint variables. So again, these are variables I've removed from here. So they were just 3 extra lines in here. I've removed them 3 lines, and I've broken them down individually into different breakpoints, and I've manually set the pixels. So that's just if you can't get sort of the clamp formula working or percentages working for you. If you want to hard manually set these values, this is how you do it. Now, I won't put this in the code pen because it might get confusing, but hopefully you can pause the video and just see how I've got this working. So yeah, I hope that's helped for you guys who want to manually set up responsivity in that way. And just to clarify, guys, you don't need an extra code snippet or anything for this. You can make all these changes back in your custom CSS here. It's just one I'd created earlier just for demonstration purposes. But yeah, if you want to manually add your breakpoints in here, that's perfectly fine. one benefit of adding your custom CSS all within the actual widget itself alongside this HTML JavaScript is once you've done this, you can now manually save this as a template and save it in a cloud template and give it a name. And that means you've got access to this slider or slides for any other websites you're working on. You wouldn't need to manually copy any code or any snippets. You can just import this template from the cloud directly into your website. So I would recommend doing that once you've created something like this, because it would save you a lot of time and effort. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. It's certainly one I've enjoyed figuring out how to build, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out, because it's such a massive improvement on just having the standard pagination dots. We've now got interactive titles and loading bars. So yeah, I hope you can implement this quite easily on your websites. And if you have found it useful, feel free to drop a like, comment, or even better, subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one.